Welcome to the Retro Blood.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood. As we continue this talk on families getting together and ready to celebrate the holiday season, going out there, carving some turkeys, getting the candy yams ready for everybody, getting the gravy ready, getting the beer chugging like I am doing right over here, because we are celebrating Thanksgiving here on the Retro Blood, because we are continuing 1980s Killer Family Month. Up next, if y'all like dark black comedies that don't hit the mark, if y'all like a family doing chili cook-offs out there, if y'all like Leatherface falling in love and seducing a girl with a chainsaw and her next to her cooter, all right, if y'all like crazy death scenes and a layer of goreness and comedy, then this is the reboot that nobody asked for, but we all like. People like it, apparently. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is what we're talking about here today. What's up, everybody? This is James Kline. All right, so obviously you can see I'm a little solo right now. There's a reason for that. So, in my shoot job, I travel a lot. I go everywhere, man. I was in Buffalo, New York. I'm about to be there again. I've been to Ohio, Florida, you name it. So with that becomes me and Alison have to record on the road. So apparently for the past two recordings that we've done, I've had a couple issues out there with my laptop wanting to be pretty much an asshole to me. All right, I'm fighting like technology out here, brother. Okay. All right. So when we did the Mothers episode, everything recorded fine audio wise, but the video was out. It was just a black screen. And I didn't know why it was that at all. My same old setup, it just did that. And then the last episode we were doing, which I'm going to show you part of it over here. Me and Alison, we got together. I was in my hotel room. We were filming everything. And I noticed that my laptop's power was going out a little bit. So all I did was I took the power socket and I tried to find somewhere to power it different. And apparently when I did that, for some reason, my system and everything cut my audio. You could see our pretty little faces. You could hear Alison, but you couldn't hear me. You couldn't hear yours truly at all. So that's why the episode we were actually going to drop it on Sunday, but I was like, you know what? Maybe what I'll do is I'll do half of it, what we recorded that went through, and then I'll do the other half, just me, solo on here on Thanksgiving. So, but everybody, I appreciate you all watching the Retro Blood, hanging out with us here on Thanksgiving, talking about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I know this movie kind of gets a lot of love, but the main point I was kind of getting across is I didn't think this film was that fun at all. I thought it was kind of boring. The biggest thing was to me was the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so violent, and it was so like grungy, and it was just so it was just so real, almost realistic and stuff too. That was like shock. Now, what we'll talk about, which we'll hear a little bit on here too, the director, Tobe, he said there was always black comedy elements within the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which there was, but it was overshadowed by all the shocking scenes that happened. And we have a good discussion on here about comedy and horror films, So in this movie, he basically wanted to have more of the black comedy shine in this movie. All right, which is not a bad idea. I think the best person who did like this style of horror, this hillbilly backwater comedy, goofy hillbilly stuff, was one Rob Zombie. All right, when he did The House of the Thousand Corpses, when he did 3 from Hell, and he did that other one I keep forgetting about all the time that came out recently. I thought he did, and of course I had the great Bill Moseley on here, which we did talk about a little bit on here as well too. But I thought this one right here, I just thought some of the actual comedy elements I just didn't think worked for the film. Now this film did have some great scenes in it, and it did have a lot more gore than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that was done for a reason. Tobe wanted to make this is part of his 3-deal film with Canon. And one of the deals was to actually make a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. All right. And he wanted to make it his own way. So he wanted to amp up the comedy and amp up the gore for the time. So, this movie has been divided amongst fans. Some of them love it. Some of them still hate it. I rewatched it. I thought it sucked because when I think Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I probably would think more of like the original one, where yes, you could have some comedy characters in there, but you still got to have your crazy like Leatherface scenes. And I just thought Leatherface in this movie was just goofy. Like he was just a goofy. He didn't scare me at all. He was just a goofy man compared to the first one. Now we did talk a little bit about 2, where when it happens in the 90s and stuff, where they released the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 and 4, they got back to some of the more elements of what made those movies kind of crazy. At least the first one, where it would be the disturbing, they bring back the disturbing scenes. Okay. But it was really cool. A lot of those movies also kept the Stretch character alive, which we'll talk about a little bit on here too. So what we're going to do first is we're going to do the audio that me and Alison recorded that didn't get all messed up. And then we're going to cut back to yours truly, and we will do the whole review portion of the podcast on here. So everybody, check us out. Myself and Alison talking the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, plus some behind the scenes of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Enjoy it, and I'll be right back over here. Welcome back, everybody, to the Retro Blood. As we continue this month of November 2025, talking about family, talking about getting together as a good old family, doing fun family activities, going fishing and hunting, eating by the dinner table, and getting grandpa to smash some girl's face in. Because we are talking about 1980s Killer Family Month here on the Retro Blood all month long. And up next, if y'all like talking about one of the greatest franchises in horror movie history, where this one didn't really hit the mark, but if y'all like dark comedy, if y'all like hillbillies cooking chili, if you like the hot Sawyer girl who we saw in Stepdad 2, but she had way more of a presence on this movie as a hot DJ, fleeing cannibal killer families, while we have one of the worst sheriffs ever in horror movie history, Fulton, going to a cannibal dungeon lair zone level, destroying it while screaming at the top of his lungs to make sure everybody knows he's there, but nobody hears him at all, I guess. And if you like Leatherface, falling in love and try to hump a girl with a chainsaw. Brother, this dark comedy of a first movie that was crazy as shit. If this is the one you're all gonna like, this is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. J.H. Alison, James Kline. How was your trip to Dallas there, Alison? Hanging out with the Sawyer family?
Yeah, it was fine. I haven't seen this movie in a long time. So this was kind of a new experience again for me because I haven't seen it in forever. But yeah, it's been going pretty well. This month has been pretty good. I liked it so far.
So right off the bat, we have a lot to talk about. So this week we probably won't be doing a history segment. I talk about pro wrestling and metal just because we're not okay. So at one time we are going to do probably the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in long form, but we are going to talk about it. All right. But first, I want to start off this show hot with a little rant because I thought this movie fucking sucked.
Did you? Have you never seen it before?
I've seen it before a couple times, but I've always thought it sucked. I always hated it. I just like, I get where they were going with the hillbilly comedy. Ha ha ha, dark humor. Oh, look at him. He's a hillbilly. Ha ha ha. You know what I mean?
Right.
I just like, so my thing was, okay, so the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, okay?
Mm-hmm.
That movie right there, 1974, all right? That movie right there was a fucking crazy movie for the time, all right?
Yes.
I mean, talk about legendary movie. Because when you watch this shit, I mean, especially, you can even watch it nowadays. It's very disturbing type of movie.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yes, there was, according to Tobe, our boy Tobe, all right, Hooper. Yes, there was a little comedy in your fucking original movie, but doesn't mean people were noticing that shit because of all the crazy kills in there. Okay.
Right.
So my thing about it was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one was, yes, it wasn't like Mr. Serious movie. You know what I mean? But it was a creepy movie with very suspense, like kill scenes and very just like creepiness. Yes, the family was a little weird and out there like a hillbilly family. And yeah, that fat dude in the wheelchair was kind of funny. Okay. But overall, the tone of the movie was very like dark and like realistic, cannibal family. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That you run into in the fucking woods. So, but this one, they were like, well, fuck, man. Tobe was like, well, fuck, I thought that shit was hilarious in the first movie and nobody got it. So I'm going to amp it up to the 10th degree and just make everybody fucking funny and just goofy and non-serious.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, Texas Chainsaw Massacre doesn't need a sequel.
Yeah.
Like there should have been never been a sequel to this. And I don't know how else you would do it if you didn't do it the way he did it when he made this movie. But I just, I don't hate this movie. I liked it better than you do, but I still don't really like it. Yeah. If you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this movie was made because Tobe Hooper didn't really make much money off of the first Texas Chainsaw. And then this was his chance to make money, so to speak.
Yeah. They kind of like get some more riches off of it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, off of the movie and stuff. So, but let's go into a little bit because let's talk a little bit about the first one. Okay, so we're just going to talk a little bit. Like I said, one day we might go a long form to talk about more in detail, like the making of it and everything. So, but about the first movie, obviously, Tobe Hooper, was young into his film career when he made Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Obviously, he got a lot of the ideas from the murders that the Ed Gein did. All right, when it comes to the making, furniture out of body parts, wearing the skin. Obviously, Ed Gein wasn't some giant Southern dude chopping people up with a chainsaw, but the influence was there. Okay, and obviously he wanted to show a side of America at the time that was pretty dark. All right, so that's why like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre pretty came to be. And when you watch the film, it's I like the filming on the first one because it felt like very like real. Like a lot of those early 70s movies that we talk about, like, Last House on the Left, you know what I mean? Like those, like even the original Halloween and a little bit too, Black Christmas that came out the same year as this one. It had a more like realistic vibe to it. Maybe just the way they filmed it, maybe because it was low budget like that. So, and it just had like a creepy undertone, you know what I mean? Where they, that the hitchhiker guy, and then they meet this like cannibal family. And I think the movie really picks up when Leatherface smashes that one dude and he drags him into his fucking lair of torture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the original movie is very... I'm trying to figure out a way to describe it. Like there's not really jump scares in it, and it's not even really that scary. It's except for the fact that it's just really grimy.
Yeah.
Like it just looked grimy and dirty, and it just looks very unsettling. That the whole thing is just really unsettling, and it's very like like you don't know what's going to happen next, which is like what it was like for those people. You know, you didn't know what was going to happen next, and they go as soon as they go into, you know, they start going to the house one by one, and then like, you know, Leatherface like kind of like takes them all out. You know, and then until they get to the last girl, and then she's like runs through, you know, for the last half of the movie or whatever. You know, and the first movie, I can really like sympathize. I really sympathize with Leatherface a lot, because all he's not really trying to kill anybody. All he's really trying to do is keep these people out of the house, like his brother told him to, and he doesn't really know where they're coming from. They just keep showing back up, and he's freaking out and having to kill them. But yeah, I mean, but then this movie is a complete 180, right? It's like it's a horror movie. I mean, it's a comedy instead of like, it's not really supposed to be scary. I don't think it's a black comedy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's just weird because I think there was this kind of disconnect. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like where Tobe Hooper was saying, like, oh, well, there was black comedy, you know, within the first one. Nobody just got it.
I mean, and I'm a little bit, I guess.
Like, just, bro, like, not really. You know what I mean? Like, what the hell are you watching? Your own fucking film? So, like, that's why he wanted to amp it up in this movie, because he thought that's what made the first one so great, was having some black comedy. So let's amp it up on this one. But the problem is, like, we've done black comedy on here on the show before. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, fuck, we just did one a couple weeks ago when we did Mother's Day. That was a black comedy.
Right. Yes.
So it can be done. All right. And it's been done. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of the black comedy style horror films and stuff. I just think they're trying to be too goofy for their own way or something. Like too animated, like it's some sort of fucking cartoon or whatever that we're watching. All right. But, you know, obviously it can be done with certain movies. I just think that a lot of the audiences, when they watched this around 1986, you know, a lot of them because the interest came up is when they did I think it was in 1980. All right. Like 7 years after the original film aired, they did a remaster of it in theaters, and it was very popular in the 80s. Okay. Sure. And so they're like, oh shit, well, you know, we got this hot movie that, you know, it still holds up even after 7 years of it airing. All right. People, they have an audience for this. So let's kind of try to capitalize on it and make a sequel. And basically, you know, Tobe like brought the idea to Canon Film, which is a whole mess of itself for that studio. And I guess he wanted to make it like on the fundamentals that he thought at the time would be good, putting the black comedy on there, put a lot more gore on the movie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like making it a lot more updated for the times. The problem was, yes, you're trying to make it updated for the times, but like you forgot the essence of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is making it creepy, which is what people like, and that's what they wanted to see. They didn't want to see some sort of new age bullshit. Even at the time, 1986, new age bullshit, brother. They wanted to see the creepiness of the film. Mm-hmm. So I know this movie probably has its fans, like all these other old school horror movies. You know what I mean? But I think out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, this one is definitely my least favorite. I think it fucking sucks. I thought it was boring as shit. All right. I thought, yes, the Bill guy was good. All right. I thought he played his role pretty good, but character still sucked because it was I couldn't understand half the shit he was saying. Leatherface was a big pussy during this. I mean, fuck, bro. That guy was scary as shit. In the first movie, running people down, putting them on spikes and shit. Looked huge as fuck. This one was just dancing around with the chainsaw. All right.
Yeah, they just made him goofy. You know, they just made the whole thing goofy. And like I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah, the dad, the Sawyer dad and shit. Like he was just out there spitting a bunch of random shit I could understand. I was like, fuck. And then we got this fucking ranger guy, Fulton, coming back for revenge because he killed his brother and his I don't know, maybe sister or something like that in the first film, but he was just acting goofy, yelling at everybody during the fucking, he was screaming and nobody heard him at all. And this guy was screaming to the top of his lungs, and he had like 3 chainsaws for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it is. Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm not a huge fan of this movie either. Like, I haven't seen it in decades. Like, it's been 20 years or more since I've seen this. And I probably won't watch it a ton again. I don't own it personally. It's like I own 2 or 3 copies of the first movie, but I don't own this movie at all. So I'm just like, I don't really like any of the Chainsaw sequels, really, except for the one with Matthew McConaughey in it.
Yes, that was Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4.
Yeah.
And that one is actually pretty fucking creepy, man. Like fucking him on there. This bro, I watched that one recently. Like well, kind of recently. When I did my old show, we did a review on it. And bro, like he on there is a maniac. I was like, I could not believe myself. He went from that to making Days of Confused. What's that movie? Dazed and Confused?
Dazed and Confused, yeah.
I was like, is this the same person? Because
it is. It's crazy, right?
He was a fucking great like antagonist in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to do that one of the day for the lights out because that's one of my.
We should, yeah.
Texas. Now the third one is not too bad either. It's a lot more serious than this one was, but that one had a lot of budgetary stuff, just like this movie kind of did too. But I actually think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 4 New Generation was actually a pretty good sequel. And I actually thought that some of the remakes they did around the 2010 era, I thought some of those are pretty good too for the time.
I thought the Michael Bay remake was really good. Yeah. I mean, not really. It was pretty good. It was watchable. I think it kind of captured a little bit about what the original was like.
Yeah.
I didn't see the Netflix one. Did you see the one that's on Netflix?
Yeah, that one.
I haven't watched that. I heard it's good though.
Yeah. So first thing about the Michael Bay one. So what's very interesting about that film is that film actually kind of revamped horror in a way for the 2010s, because after that movie came out, that's when everybody realized, oh shit, we can make sequels off all these old franchises, because that movie that Michael Bay did of the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre did really well at the box office. So then after that, that's why we got, reboots of Halloween. We got reboots of, Freddy. We got reboots of all this stuff because of the big success of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot at the time. All right. And I thought the one they did right after that was actually pretty good. And that one actually had the rapper dude in it. I can't remember his name off the top of my head too. But I like the newer age, I guess you would say, Texas Chainsaw Massacre ones. The one on Netflix is actually pretty good too. Like they try to do like the grindiness of the first one in that one. Yeah. But they also like gore it up as well too. So basically it's kind of like what this movie kind of should have been. You know what I mean? Right. I haven't seen it in a while, so I don't remember like every aspect of it, but I remember it being pretty good, and they actually do pretty good on the suspense of the film. All right. So, but there's a bunch of them out there. There's like that Netflix one. There's one about Leatherface. Yeah. When he was a kid. So this one has about a pretty good set of catalog for it. All right. So that, and this series in Texas Chainsaw Man is actually, one of the hot items that you see out there. Like usually when you go to like a Halloween store or Spirit and stuff, you'll at least find something from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So even with the bad sequel that I think this one did, it definitely held itself up over years, being one of the strong, horror franchises that gets people, captivated.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing. Like it's very, present now in Halloween type situations, like Halloween stores and things like that. Like it's like, whereas for a long time, I think people didn't really understand it. Like when I was growing up, for example, like until I could finally see it on VHS, it was like a movie that I heard about and didn't know what it was. Like, there was no internet. So it was like this mysterious, it's like horrible thing, that you that's horrible to watch, and like it will ruin your life and that kind of thing. It's the most disgusting thing ever made. And then you see it and it's not as bad as as its reputation, but it's still very grimy and very like off-putting. It's very like unsettling.
Yeah.
When you watch it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's get a little bit about this movie, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Why was this shit made? Let's talk about who booked this shit, brother. All right. So this one was kind of interesting. So basically, Tobe Hooper, the director from the original one, who also we've talked about many times on this show.
Yep, we've done a lot of his movies.
Yes, I believe we did Life Force was one of them.
Life Force, yeah.
Oh God, what's the other one we did? We done a couple of his stuff. I know one of the ones we have in the works is doing Poltergeist, which I guess technically would be his second most popular film that he's done.
I would say so, yeah.
But yeah, he's done a couple stuff that we've done on here before. So he was kind of like a hot commodity in horror around the 80s because he did all these other movies.
Right.
He also do that Funhouse movie?
He did Funhouse, yeah. He was kind of a hot commodity because he made Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah.
Like you were saying in 1980 they brought Texas Chainsaw Mac and he became before that he was kind of a nobody, and then after that he became like a famous horror director that everybody wanted to have make a movie. So he got kind of famous, but he wasn't really making any money. But Chainsaw was definitely what made him known, if you will. Yeah. Made him famous.
And like I said, I thought this Poltergeist movie, which we'll talk about soon, which is another crazy movie. He's done some other stuff that's well in his good catalog.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But obviously, the Texas Chainsaw was the most famous. And when they sold the rights to Canon, Canon was very excited about making a second one. All right.
Oh, I'm sure.
So
yeah.
But
I was going to say that. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, but yeah, you mentioned how crazy Canon Films is, but there's a really good documentary called Electric Boogaloo that if anybody hasn't seen it, you should watch it. It tells this crazy story of Canon Films and how those two Israeli brothers or friends or whatever came to the United States and decided they had a bunch of money. They're like, okay, we're going to make movies. And then they made all these crazy action movies and they made Ninja 3 and they made all kinds of crazy ass movies that are all amazing. And this is probably the worst Canon movie. Actually, that's not true. The worst Canon movie I've ever seen is Masters of the Universe. But
come on, bro, that's the best Canon film ever.
But I know you love that movie, so I'm not going to say anything. But Missing in Action 1 and 2, they made both of those. Those are great movies. Yeah. They made a bunch of good stuff. But anyway, back to Texas Chainsaw. So
how dare you disrespect the great name of the Masters of the Universe and Dolph Lundgren's glistening body? How dare you?
Yeah, we're gonna have to find some excuse to do that on the show at some point.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
But so basically, Canon they offered him a budget at the time.
Yeah.
But they kept tell me if you heard this one before. They kept cutting the budget.
No way.
So they cut the budget so much on this movie, and obviously Tobe wanted to make this movie really bad. They couldn't even afford a director, so that's why Tobe had to direct the film.
Oh, so he originally wasn't going to direct it. He was just going to produce it or whatever.
Yeah, he's going to produce it.
Okay.
Yeah. But they couldn't find anybody who could do that style, I guess, within a budget that they were giving him. And the rumor is every week the budget would be either up or down. All right, depending on how the previous films did. So that's the rumor going on. So basically, he was putting his ideas together. Like we said before, he was trying to do more of the dark black comedy style because he thought that was present in his first film. Because he's like, oh shit, let's bring that back. Let's make that, but let's amp it up for the time. All right. So that's why a lot of his style was going to do it. There was some original ideas that were out there. His original idea was to have the whole town be a cannibal town.
Okay, well, I mean that's not a terrible idea either.
Yeah, and I think he was either going to link it or do something where they were going to mix in Motel Hell. Remember we did that film?
Yes,
with the pig and the chainsaw. All right, because that movie at the time was very it was kind of like almost I wouldn't say it's a remake, but it's very similar aspects in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Everybody can find that out in our archives when we talk about Motel Hell.
That was a great one.
So so basically the canon was like, no, we don't like these ideas. So that's when he brought in another writer, okay, Kim Hinkle. All right. So Ken Hinkle originally had an idea for a sequel that would feature the entire town, like I said, of cannibals, and also be the same satire of the film like Motel Hell, like I was saying. So that was Ken Hinkle's idea. All right.
Right.
So the title of the sequel was to be Beyond the Valley of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Cool name. I like it.
That's pretty cool. I like that. But yeah, Kim Hinkle wrote, with Tobe Hooper, wrote Texas Chainsaw 1.
Yeah.
So Hinkle and Tobe Hooper worked on Chainsaw 1 together.
Yeah, they worked together. So he basically brought him back to help out with some ideas. All right. So, which, makes sense. If you write something together with somebody and you're still cool with them, might as well bring them back. You know what I mean? So they says on here, the studio forced considerable changes to be made to the screenplay, even hiring a new screenwriter. The results of those changes are what became the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. All right. So a couple things. Let's see what we got here. All right. So one thing that's pretty fun about this movie. Let me get into the production stuff. All right. All right. So a couple of things. All right. The first thing is, and we're going to bring up that documentary that you just talked about, Electric Boogaloo, the wild, untold story of Cannon Films. In that documentary, it was basically saying Cannon's films adapted a straightforward horror film. While Hooper sought to make the sequel a black comedy, Hooper enlisted M.L. Kit Carson to write the screenplay, which he began in January of 1986. All right. So, let's see. So this is also part of a 3-film deal that Tobe Hooper was working with Cannon Film. Because he also did Life Force, which we did on the show. Check it out in the archives, 1985. Right. And he did Invaders from Mars. So a couple things also about it too. So, once they got the production and kind of like written and Cannon was cool with it, obviously they kept cutting budget. So a lot of the special effects they were trying to use, most of those got cut out of the film. All right, everybody. So there you go. There you have the little bit that me and Alison recorded talking Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. And right where I cut off, I was just talking about the production. So a couple of things on production. This one was hindered by Cannon Film. They kept cutting the budget. Like it seemed like one film would do okay, the budget would be higher. One film they did would be bad, the budget would be lower. Okay. So despite this though, people were craving for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. This film right here was was highly unguarded when it came out in the 80s and stuff. It was really looking forward to people watching this one. They remember the craziness of the first movie and they're like, oh shit, we're making a sequel out of this thing. Let's go see it. All right. So a couple things that we didn't get into was they did come up to Gunnar Hansen, who played the original Leatherface. Okay, they wanted to have him play on this movie, but he couldn't. They basically were going to give him, he claims they were going to give him an option of paying him scale plus 10%, plus pay his agent fees. And he claims that he said he didn't have an agent, so they're like, okay, well we'll just pay you the plus the scale plus 10. And he's like, well, you're going to pay me more before. Why are you going to pay me less? Because I don't have an agent. All right. And then it was the published Scott Holton offered an alternative story claiming that Hansen violated about the. Okay. So Scott Hansen offered an alternative story claiming that Hansen. So Scott Holton claimed, okay, that he told an alternative story that basically he kind of sat on it too long, and they're like, well, you just played Leatherface. They didn't hear your voice or anything on there, like, so like, anybody could play this Leatherface character. Okay. Oh, I did like it how we did get Kane Hodder in Texas 3 to play Jason. I thought he did a pretty good job, but that's for a different time. Retro Blood 90s during that portion. Okay. Of course, we talked a little bit about Bill Moseley. So apparently in his story, he created a short film called the Texas Chainsaw Manicure, okay, where he played a small war as a hitchhiker, all right? And this was shown to Tobe Hooper, and Tobe Hooper liked it so much that he said he kept Moseley in mind, so if he ever made another Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, he would put him in there, and that's how he came up with, when he actually did this movie, he came up with the character Chop Top for Bill Moseley, okay. So, of course, the principal photography took place on May 5th, 1986 in Austin, Texas. All right. Even though they claim they were from Dallas the whole time. All right. They're like, oh, Dallas Metroplex area. That's where the chili cook-off and all them were. All right. A lot of the places were filmed at the Austin American Statesman Building. Okay. And they also filmed a lot of places in the amusement park of the Paradale. Okay. Some post-production on here. Several scenes were deleted by director Tobe Hooper due to pacing issues, as mentioned on the 2000 Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Shocking Truth documentary. One lengthy scene that was cut for the film involves the Sawyer clan heading out on a nightclub to collect prime meat for the chili cook-off, okay, by slaughtering patrons coming out of a movie theater, okay? A group of rowdy riot fans in the parking lots. The deleted scenes featured several elaborate Tom Savini special effects, and the deleted scenes also had one Joe Bob Briggs on here too, which obviously he's always been a fan of the original Texas. Before I get into the full review too, I also want to talk a little bit about the soundtrack. I thought this has a pretty interesting soundtrack for the time, especially this movie too. So it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre soundtrack, okay, and it had the Lords of the New Church were on there. Yes, for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. We have some goth band on here. We have the Cramps, which we actually did here in the movie, played by Stretch's DJing session. Concrete Blonde, they're on here a couple times. Stuart Copeland, and of course we have the band I could never pronounce correctly, Uno Bogno. All right. And we did have Crazy Crazy Mama by Roy Ickerson was used in the film but not included on the soundtrack. Okay. So that's a couple things about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. But I say, let's get into it. Let's get into the full review of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Years ago, audiences across America were horrified by the savagery of a faceless killer. In the wake of this bizarre rampage, he vanished. Now, after more than a decade of silence, he has come out of hiding. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. The Buzz is back. Directed by Tobe Hooper.
All right, so we start off the film by seeing Buzz and Rick. They're racing down a highway trying to go to the Texas OU game. Y'all ever been out to a bunch of Texas? That's actually a pretty big deal in Texas. You know, I'm like, everybody for a shoot on here. I actually did live in Texas for 20 years. And I would always hear about the old famous Texas and Oklahoma game. So that was a pretty prominent thing they put on here. All right. It was part of the Cotton Bowl. All right. So they're harassing a pickup truck on the way. So you obviously knew that was going to be one of the killers. Pickup truck, obviously. They're drinking some beer, like I am doing on here. Cheers, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. And they basically are using a car phone to call their favorite DJ, Stretch. All right. DJ Veneta Stretch Brock. Okay. And they're on their phone. They're harassing their radio. And I couldn't believe this was a thing. And maybe I don't do any radio DJing. I do podcasting. Does that count? So they call up and Stretch cannot hang up on them. It's like they can call in, but they can't hang up on them. That doesn't seem like that would be a violent. It doesn't seem like it would be real for that to happen. But, you know, it happened in this film. So Stretch is keeping them on the line. The two passengers, they finally find the truck that they harassed earlier. And now that truck is playing like a cat and mouse game to them on there. They're kind of like doing the chicken on there and stuff. And this is when we see that they popped out a dead body and it's shaking, and then both of them are freaking out like, what the fuck? Even the guy with the crazy glasses. All right? Because these guys, they are named Buzz and Rick. Okay? I believe Buzz is the one with the crazy glasses. So, the body that was actually hanging from the truck, and we will see later on the scenes, is actually supposed to be the body from the hitchhiker from the original movie. Okay? So we see them on there. Then we see Leatherface pop his face out. And then basically he takes his huge ass chainsaw. It's like fucking a mile long in this fucking thing. And he chainsaws Rick's head off while he's driving. Okay? And then he gets Buzz after that. And the big thing about all this is Stretch, because she can't hang up on them, recorded the whole murder on tape. Live on tape, brother. Okay? So, when this all happens, the next morning, we finally meet our sheriff of the story, Lieutenant Lefty. Body Enright Lefty. Who was probably the worst sheriff I've ever seen in horror films. There was that one movie, I think it was The Children. There was one movie that me and Alison did in the 80s that had the god worst fucking police officer known to man on there. I mean, he sucked. This guy, so the story about Lefty is basically, in the first movie, he was related to Sally and Frankie. Okay? Of course, Sally's the one who escaped everything, so she's the one that told Lefty about all the murders that happened in the first movie. And Frankie is obviously the wheelchair guy who died. Okay? So Lefty's been looking for this killer family ever since, for years and years and years, and nobody believes him. They all think he's just a crazy man. Okay? And he's also a former Texas Ranger. Okay? So they were, so basically he's there on the scene to help solve the murders of Buzz and Rick. Now the police kind of blow this off, saying hey, you know, this is probably just some drunk dudes going to the game, brother. This is good old land, Texas. They're just good old boys getting drunk. All right? And then Lefty brings up a good point, saying, okay, they were drunk and shit. Why'd they get his skull halfway cut off? All right. So then he kind of does some of his own research. Okay. And a lot of the, Lefty's been spending 13 years searching for this family. Okay. And everybody knows he's been investigating him and stuff, and disappearance and stuff. And there has been a lot of disappearances in this movie. Okay. One thing I didn't bring up was actually the opening of this movie is very like the first movie, which gave us some Star Wars titles on there, telling that basically the family got away at the beginning of the movie. Okay, and they've been on the hunt. They've been on the run ever since. Nobody even knows about this, if this killer family was real or not. All right, but there has been strange occurrences happening around Texas. Okay. So now, Lefty gets in contact with Stretch. All right, so Stretch actually brings him the audio tape that records the attacks. He kind of shins her away and stuff because, like I said, he's been doing this for 13 years and stuff, and he's pretty much the only one who's convinced that there's a cannibal family on the loose of Texas. Everybody else just thinks it's a coincidence where shit goes missing and stuff like that. Okay. So now Stretch and her coworker L.G. Peters, what a Texas name that is, brother. L.G. Peters. They're going to the Texas-Oklahoma Chili Cook-Off for the radio show. And of course, the winner just happens to be the dad from the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Drayton Sawyer, who actually is one of the rare people from the original movie who actually was actually in this movie. All right. So, of course, he's the dad of the cannibalistic Sawyer family. And they're all saying oh, what's your meat and everything? He's like, well, I just have an eye for prime meat. Of course, he's feeding dead human flesh to him. And of course, I was making the comparison where it's well, whose dishes do you think it might be better? Drayton Sawyer or Hannibal? Which human meat dish would you like? Which one do you all prefer out there? Leave a comment below. Do you prefer Hannibal's dishes or Drayton Sawyer dishes? I guess it depends if you're a chili fan or not. So this is when Lefty is going insane off the bat. Like it doesn't take him like fucking, he says he's been looking for 13 years, but this movie right away, he's already insane. So he goes randomly into a chainware hardware store, and he is amusing the owner of his like weirdness of grabbing 2 chainsaws and like just pumping them up and everything. Then he grabs a long chainsaw and he does it. The shop owner like, "What do you want to give it a test?" So he tests the chainsaw out on a wood. Okay. And then like, first the owner's like looking at him like, "Oh, weird, like what the fuck?" And then he starts going at it. Lefty gets really into it. And the shop owner's like, yeah, get into it. Yeah, I like that, brother. Okay. Really weird. So then Lefty now drives to Stretch radio station, asks her to play the tape of her nightly radio show. All right. And then now Lefty's like, "Can you play this tape for the public?" All right. And he's like saying that the public has previously mocked all my cases, but now you have some proof of some killer family out there, basically, or some murders actually happening here. People are dying for a reason. They're not just freak accidents. Okay. And she does that. So while driving home from the chili cook-off, we have Drayton call Chop Top saying, "Hey, that tape of y'all killing those fucking kids on the road's playing. You got to take care of that shit now." All right. So he sends him and Leatherface out to the radio station. Okay. And so Stretch is about to leave for the night. And then she runs into Chop Top. Now, Chop Top, like, I got to give Bill Moseley credit. You could tell that this guy didn't have any lines written for him at all. He was just saying random shit the whole fucking movie. Like the whole movie, man. Just saying shit. All right. Of course, his big line in this movie that everybody remembers, that they even made a Primus song about it, would be "Dog will hunt. Dog will hunt, brother." All right, let me take a little swig of my beer here. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. So he's basically saying, like, "I'm here right now. I want to tour the radio station. You know what I mean? This is happening right now." Stretch is completely freaked out by this fucking guy. Okay? And while this is happening, out of nowhere, Leatherface attacks like the Kool-Aid man. All right. And he's chasing down Stretch and everything. All right. And this is when we get LJ coming back. Okay. Wondering who this guy is on here and everything, who Chop Top is, and that's where Stretch is. And this is when we get the good old famous scene of Leatherface cornering Stretch. And Stretch is doing, she can notice that Leatherface is giving her the eye. Or the chainsaw, if you might say. All right. And then she's like, "How good are you? How good are you?" And then Leatherface, oh so slowly, takes his huge chainsaw and rubs against her thigh, close to her vagina region. All right. Which is probably the most famous part of the movie? I'm guessing, everybody? I'm pretty sure it is. So during this, LJ confronts Chop Top. Chop Top then hammers the fuck out of LJ. Now, I actually thought this scene was the most brutal scene in the whole film. Because LJ does something similar than the first movie, where you get bludgeoned in the head and you start shaking a little bit. So I thought that was pretty good. And then Chop Top starts banging on LG's head and stuff. And he's basically, supposedly dead. Supposedly. We'll get there soon. So Leatherface comes in. All right. Chop Top's like, "You killed that bitch?" He's like, "Yes." And then they get on out of there. And they take LG's body with them because that's good old Texas prime meat, brother. Okay. So during this, Stretch now follows them to the lair. To the Sawyer lair of doom. Okay. So Stretch is out there. She sees that they're going past some huge, like, skeleton. It looks like a pterodactyl, whatever, bone structures and stuff like that. And then Stretch gets chased by a car, and it's Lefty. Lefty's there. And Stretch is like, "What the fuck, man? You left me and stuff." All right. And then Lefty was like, "Sorry." And then while this happens, Stretch gets caught into a dungeon, basically a trap, and she goes all the way down to the meat layer. All right, and this is when Lefty, okay, Lefty now has gone insane again. I mean, it like, you know how movies you have to like progress, like you know how like Loomis, for example. Even in the first Halloween, he wasn't like, all there. Because, obviously we know that he's been dealing with Michael for years and years and years. And he knows that Michael escaping is going to be, there's going to be a lot of death tonight. But his character is a little bit more gradual. And his insaneness, he didn't go really like crazy until like the end of the movie. This Lefty guy, we got one scene of him investigating and then boom, he's crazy. All right. So now he goes into the lair with his 2 chainsaws on his side and his chainsaw in his hand. And then he proceeds to scream on the top of his lungs. The Lord give him strength. And now he's chainsawing the lair of the Sawyer family. Now I was thinking like, okay, if you finally found the killers you've been tracing for 13 years who killed your relative, frankly, would you go in there guns blazing? Or would you actually make a plan to actually capture them and kill them? No. This Lefty guy, guns blazing, brother. Just jumping right in there, don't give a fuck. Starts chainsawing everything. And I like it where none of them hurt him. He's screaming on top of his fucking lungs and nobody even knew he was there. Half the movie. So Stretch is now in the Leatherface lair of meat and bones. By the way, the scenery in this movie was fantastic. Okay? Scenery in the movie was fantastic, and the gore was fantastic, obviously because the gore is made by Tom Savini. Okay? Plotline, little lacking. Characters, lacking. Scenery, gore, fantastic. My view. Okay? So, Stretch is eventually found out by Leatherface. Okay? And we could see that Leatherface was chopping up LG's body. He got like his leg. He got a little bit of his stomach on his ribs, and then he chopped off his face, okay? And then he finds Stretch, and then the other creepiest part of this movie was when Leatherface put the dead skin face, or dead skin mask, metal fans out there, you know what I'm talking about. He puts the dead skin mask on Stretch's face, and they start dancing. That part was super creepy. I appreciated all that stuff. Pretty wild stuff over here. So then the Sawyer family comes in, chops up and Drayton, wondering where the Leatherface is at and stuff. They need to get some more meat for the chili cook-off, or for the chili they may make over here. And of course they say a bunch of shit I don't understand either. Okay, so Leatherface leaves with him, and then it's come to us. They show us that LG is still alive. This guy is like the guy like that, just like you're trying to kill, but he's like keeps coming back to life. I think there's a guy like Monty Python like that. Like they try to kill him and stuff, but he just kept coming back. So that's LG over here. This guy has he got bludgeoned by Chop Chop. He got skinned on his leg. He got skinned on his ribs, and he has no fucking face. All right, and then he sees that his face is still on Stretch. They scream a little bit. He passes out. He says he loves her, and he dies. All right. So then, while doing this too, LG did free Stretch as well. Now Stretch is running around the whole killer dungeon lair. All right. And then she makes a noise, and now everybody realizes, oh shit, that girl is still alive. Stretch. So of course, Drayton and everything, and chops up Skull Leatherface. We're not killing the girl. And then this is when Chop Chop goes and finds her and captures her. Okay. So they capture Stretch. They put her down. This is when we get a reimagining or a reboot of or we have a memory of the original film when Sally was tied up and Sally met the cannibal family. Now we have it now in 1980s. And boy, did it suck. I thought this one sucked compared to the fucking first one. It wasn't scary. It was goofy. I just thought it sucked. So we have Grandpa's back. So Grandpa in the first movie was creepy as shit. He barely said anything. He barely moved. And he looked fucking gnarly. And this is the way they filmed it. To make them look like fucking a psycho. You know what I mean? This one was like a cartoon version of the grandma. I was like, oh, Grandpa was just milling out his mouth and everything. And they do the same gimmick. They try to put Stretch's face down on the bucket while they want Grandpa to smash her head in. And of course, this one, Grandpa keeps throwing the knife away, the hammer away, drops the knife. It takes like 20 minutes for this guy to even fucking do it, okay? The first one was creepy because they had her in the house and everything. And he was like, they're trying to do the same thing with Grandpa, getting the hammer on him. But it didn't linger on for like 20 minutes. This one did. So I didn't think it worked as well as it did the first movie. Okay? So eventually, out of nowhere, even though he's been screaming and hollering and coming down with the Lord's wrath the whole movie, Lefty shows up, pops out of nowhere. Everybody's distracted. Okay, Lefty comes up, goes to Drayton at first, okay, and he proceeds to chainsaw him in the nuts or the ass. So Drayton goes away, okay. Now we have, and then during this stuff, Stretch gets away, but then Chop Chop goes and chases after her. Okay, so he's going to chasing after her and everything. Then we get a big scene, okay, of Drayton hiding. Okay, while Lefty and Leatherface are doing some sort of Star Wars scene where they're like fucking fighting each other with chainsaws. Okay, and Drayton's saying like, "Oh, this chainsaw my ass is okay because I had hemorrhoids anyway." Ha ha ha! Comedy, brother. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my god, black comedy. This is hilarious. All right, it's so hilarious that I need to drink another beer. Okay, so while Lefty and Chainsaw are doing their thing, this is when we have Chop Chop and Stretch. They're basically climbing up and she's trying to get away. Okay. So now Drayton's trying to go get him and stuff. So eventually Lefty gets the upper hand of Leatherface and actually chainsaws Leatherface in the gut, whose gut was like extremely big in this movie. Even though it wasn't that much in the movie, then it was like at the beginning scene was like bigger. I guess to put in all the guts in there. So while this is all happening, okay, accepting the fate that him and his family have lost now, Drayton takes out a grenade from the corpse of the hitchhiker. All right, and then he proceeds to blow himself up, Lefty, and Leatherface. So there they all go. They're all blown out from the lair. During this, Chop Top is chasing Stretch up the amusement park's like tower. So then this is when Stretch finally gets up to the top of the lair. We find out that they have Grandma in there. She's in there, her dead corpse in there with the chainsaw sticking through her. Stretch takes the chainsaw. Chop Top freaks out saying, "You killed her! You killed her!" All right. And then Stretch gets the upper hand of Chop Chop, chainsaws his ass down the steps. He falls down. And then Stretch proceeds to do the Leatherface dance for some reason. You know the thing where he's like, did I do that right? Look at me. So in the first movie, Sally got away. And Leatherface was just doing some creepy dance with his chainsaw, getting all pissed and stuff like that. So everybody came up with the point of the Leatherface dance. In this movie, wasn't even dancing. Like when he would walk into the scene where he was in the radio station, he would go like this with his chainsaw and stuff. Look at me, I'm dancing. And then we had to have Stretch do that at the end for some reason. So I thought this part kind of sucked because the cool part about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is when you're watching when the victims get either escape or they die, it looks a lot more realistic. It's not goofy. Like Sally wasn't doing the Leatherface dance while she was getting driven away in the truck. No, she was bleeding and freaking out that she almost got killed by a cannibal hillbilly family. Sally, the same thing almost happened to her. She got kidnapped. Her boyfriend died. LG guy died. This Lefty guy she was working with got blown up and shit. She just took a chainsaw from a dead grandma's corpse and almost killed the dude. And now she's doing some silly dance. It's stupid. So I hated this fucking ending. I thought it fucking sucked. All right, I get it. Yeah, whatever. I thought it was stupid. the problem is, to me, is Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not a, it's just, yes, you can, even though the director, Tobe, says, oh, there's comedy in there. Yes, there was a little comedy in there, but there was the shocking value and there was the realism that made the movie so fucking great. And I just thought in this movie, they killed the mark. Yes, it's like, there's some good parts about this movie. I will give them that. Some parts were fun and stuff, but I thought overall, I thought this movie didn't meet the mark. All right, but obviously the franchise has grown. All right, we have Texas Chainsaw 3, Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, the new generation. We have all those 2010s that came out, all the 2020s, even the newest one that came out on Netflix came out. We have the backstory of Leatherface 2. You can find all their merchandise in Spirit Halloweens and Spirit stores. And Leatherface is a very iconic horror movie character. So I'm glad this number 2 didn't like kill the franchise, but I thought it was like a miss in my point of view. But if y'all don't believe it, if y'all don't like what I say, and comment below, be like, hey, we don't agree with your opinion. We do agree with your opinion. It's all opinions and stuff. So, but everybody, thanks for joining us here on Thanksgiving. One more beer for all my peeps out there. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you all are stuffing your turkeys. Hope you all are getting the table ready for some candy yams and some cornbread, some turkey with gravy, some mashed potatoes, some beer drinking. Maybe you got your family is watching some football games there on the couches and stuff like that too. And of course, you all are listening to the Retro Bloods sweet reviews, talking the Texas Chainsaw Massacre stuff. So appreciate everybody. And thanks out here. And sorry about all the technical issues, but shit happens. But I'm glad you all got to hear my sweet voices and our thoughts on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Now, getting on out of here. This Sunday, myself and Alison will be coming back for real this time. Finishing up this month of Killer Families, talking about a rare 1981 horror movie that you could pretty much not find anywhere unless you find this DVD. And that is one Home Sweet Home, everybody. So that'll be taking us out of this month. And of course, on that episode, we will let you guys know what we're doing for December on here. Now, for all my podcast listeners, let's take you all out with the first track off the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 soundtrack, The Lords of the New Church, Good to Be Bad. Because we all know it's good to be bad when you're Leatherface. And we all know the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre was a great, good movie. And even this one is bad, it still had some great parts with it too. But everybody, James Kline signing off. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you all are going to have a great holiday. And we will see you here this Sunday for Home Sweet Home. See y'all later.